Hello everyone, welcome back to our discussion on the type study of amphibians, uh, frog. So in this session, we are going to discuss the spinal cord as well as the sympathetic nervous system. So as you can see here you can see the spinal cord, which is shown here in different shades. You can see the spinal nerves arising, and on both sides of the spinal cord, you can also see the sympathetic nervous system. The spinal cord extends posteriorly from the medulla oblongata of the brain through the foramen magnum, which is the opening of the skull, and it is protected within the neural canal. We discussed the neural canal in the when we studied the vertebra. Each vertebra is having a an opening or a particular cavity, which is called as a neural canal, through which the spinal cord moves. So it is protected within the neural canal of the vertebral column. So it's a short, thick cylindrical, flattened, white in color. Like brain, it is also surrounded by the pia mater, the dura mater, and also contains the nourishing cerebrospinal fluid. Posteriorly, in the posterior region, this terminates. If you coincide this with the skeletal system, this part coincides with the structure or the particular portion of the vertebral column, which is called as the urostyle. It is inserted into the urostyle, which is non-nervous filament, which is the filum terminale in the urostyle. The spinal cord is swollen in two regions: anteriorly in the shoulder region, which is called as the brachial enlargement, and the other is seen in the trunk region, which is called as the sciatic enlargement. Coming to the peripheral nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system includes the nerves which is arising both from the brain as well as from the spinal cord or the central nervous system. The nerves that arise from the brain are called as the cranial nerves, and those arising from the spinal cord are called as the spinal nerves. In frogs, there are 10 cranial nerves and 10 spinal nerves. Every spinal nerve on either side, so as you see here, then the spinal nerves arises from, or it arises in both sides of the spinal cord, and uh, and as it comes out, as on either side, it arises from the spinal cord by two roots, which unite just as the nerve comes out of the neural canal. So that is not visible here. Actually, each of the spinal cord is having two roots. Okay, two roots are there, and those two roots join just after they come out of the spinal cord. The dorsal root bears the ganglion containing the sensory nerves, or the dorsal one is called as the dorsal root. Of this, the dorsal root is called as or contains the sensory nerves, or the sensory nerves, and the ventral one contains the motor neurons. The sensory is the one which take impulses from the sense organs to the spinal cord or the central nervous system, and the other one, the ventral one, which is the motor one, that takes the impulses from the central nervous system to the effector organ. So immediately after the origin, each spinal nerve has three branches. So it gives off three branches. One branches is a short. The first one is a ramus dorsalis. It runs to the skin. You cannot see that clearly. The three branches of all this is not shown here. So each of the spinal nerve, it gives off three branches. One moves to the skin and muscles. There is a large ramus ventralis. It moves to the ventral skin, muscles, etc., and a very small ramus communicans. So that one can be seen here. The one which is joining this series of ganglia. You can see two series of ganglia, which is the sympathetic ganglia. The third branch of the spinal nerves joins this, or it enters, joins the nearest sympathetic ganglia. A branch of the first spinal and the second and third spinal nerves of each side forms a plexus known as the brachial plexus. So this is the brachial nerve or the brachial plexus. The first, second, and third, they join and form the brachial plexus. That means that three spinal nerves, they fuse together and form a single one. So here also you can see another plexus which is called as a sciatic plexus, which is formed by the joining of the seventh, eighth, and the ninth spinal nerves. So these form the sciatic nerve. So that's with the peripheral nervous system. Coming to the sympathetic nervous system. So these include the thread-like nerve cords, which is called as the sympathetic trunk, which lies on both sides of the spinal cord. Anteriorly, they enter the skull, and each nerve trunk is connected to the ganglion of the 10th cranial nerve and runs forward to end to the Gisserian ganglion, as you can see. The Gisserian ganglion, which is shown in your textbook, it is somewhat here. The Gisserian ganglion, it lies somewhat here. The ramus communicans of each spinal nerve join, as we said earlier, it joins the sympathetic ganglion. Thus, each longitudinal sympathetic trunk is a chain of ganglia, which is 10 in number. Because there are 10 spinal nerves, this is also 10 in number. From the ganglia, nerves are given off to the viscera, the blood vessels, the glands, and also the involuntary muscles. So that's with the sympathetic nervous system. Thanks for hearing.